Good evening, everyone. I hope to hear from you. I apologize in advance if there are any interruptions during my presentation. My internet traffic is declining these days and it's quite weak. I sincerely hope that there will not be problems or delays in the transmission of images and sound. And if there are, it's something that I unfortunately cannot influence, and that's why I apologize in advance. For those who don't know me, my name is Nemanja Jakovljević and I will be working on auditing accounts on social networks during my PhD studies. When enrolling in PhD studies, I competed with a much broader topic called sophisticated audit, but due to its large scope, I decided to focus on auditing social media accounts, but I'm also generally interested in a number of other topics, such as cryptocurrency audit, IT audit, marketing audit, application of digital games and business simulations for training person in the audit profession, audit automation, and more. Okay. As you can see on this slide, I completed my undergraduate studies at the Faculty of Economics at the University of Belgrade in the field of accounting and auditing, after which I completed master degree at the Faculty of Organizational Science at the University of Belgrade in the field of managerial accounting. And I am now, of course, in PhD studies. I worked at the Agency for Business Registers as a controller of financial statements for micro-legal entities that are not audited, after which I got a job at the auditing company MO, which is the largest in Serbia in terms of the number of certified auditors it employs. I am honored to cooperate with them in the implementation of audit engagement in the audit of financial statements of more than 30 companies in various activities from construction through trade to production and provision of services. I am currently employed in the State Audit Institution of the Republic of Serbia in IT audit, and previously I worked with the same employer in planning and conducting audits of financial statements, regularity audit and performance audit in public sector entities. And that tells you that in a relatively short time, in less than 2 years, I went through all the official and generally accepted types of audits and audits of financial statements and the regularity audits and performance audit and IT audit. So I started looking for new ideas and become a member of the Association of Accountants and Auditors of Serbia, the Chamber of Certified Auditors, the Belgrade branch of the Institute of Internal Auditors, and the Belgrade branch of the Association of IT Auditors ISACA, and began researching social media audit in PhD studies. Since I will be dealing with social networks, I decided to try to make this presentation even more interesting. You probably all know about Snapchat and you probably use it every day to communicate with other users and have fun. I will now introduce you to my Snap. This is my Snap, and it will occasionally appear during the presentation to draw our attention to some important things and to turn us a little So let's get started. Alright, today I will briefly present the plan of scientific research on the topic of examining the ability of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia to conduct audits of others on social networks by testing basic knowledge about social networks. The problem of the research is that social networks are an important factor and a factor in the daily life of a large number of people who, in addition to spending a lot of time on social networks, use them for business activities and have sensitive data on them. Social networks are accessed from a computer, tablet, or mobile phone, where a large amount of sensitive data can be stored, such as payment card data, private photos, private messages, cryptocurrencies, and more. This problem is especially pronounced in people who have a large number of followers on social networks, based on that they have a significant degree of daily interaction with other users, and in people who have entrusted the management of their social media accounts to a third party. In the case of entrusting management to a third party, there is a gap in expectations, which is expressed in the fact that social network account holders want to improve management in terms of increasing the number of followers, increase advertising revenue, and the like, while on the other hand social media account managers want to earn more money, which can lead them to sign hidden advertising contracts, show smaller amounts of advertising revenue, and more. The gap in expectation becomes more significant if there is more than one owner of a specific amount on a specific social network who are located in remote locations and who want to know whether the reports they receive from the account manager in material amounts are correct and accurate. In such cases, there is a need for independent review of accounts on social networks. The audit of social networks is one of the modern concepts in the field of social media management, and at first glance, there are no points of contact with traditional audits, such as audit financial statements or performance audit. In principle, it has no sanction equality with audit as an independent assurance service, although it can be provided if it is conducted by an external person with expertise in the field of social media management, and if it is engaged to provide independent and objective assurance on the status of a specific account, specific social network, its security, and consequently the security of the account holder. A significant number of people have accounts with a large number of followers who interact with the account holder on a daily basis by expressing reactions to his announcements, and such accounts are an important source of funding for individuals or a significant business segment for certain companies based on social networks. Audit of accounts on social networks is an independent review and analysis of accounts on social networks of the entity of persons, including review of activities on social networks, goals of publishing and advertising on social networks, fulfillment of goals, determining security status, and more. The general objective of auditing social media accounts in addition to providing independent assurance, may include providing an overview of the tools, techniques, and competencies available to the entity of persons concerned to identify weakness, improve performance, and improve social media positions. Audit of social media accounts is a comprehensive, systematic analysis of the environment in the form of social networks of the subject entity, both internal and external. The audit of social media accounts includes the organization goals, strategies, and principles in order to identify problems of areas of opportunity and recommend the course of action that best suits the business needs of the entity of person concerned. In this context, the question arises as to who could conduct the audit of social media accounts defined in the manner described above. Would they be persons who deal with the planning and implementation of audits of financial statements and other types of audits, and who are certified to audit work by professional organizations, or would they be persons who deal with social networking tasks such as managing social media accounts, social media marketing, social media security, and more? And perhaps the best options is to globally define the methodology of talking and create an international certificate in the field of auditing accounts on social networks, which would include adequate audit knowledge and adequate knowledge in the field of social networks. In order to obtain adequate answers of these questions, research can be conducted in several phases, one part of which would relate to testing the knowledge of certified auditors on social networks. It can be conducted globally and locally, and for these purposes it will be shown for the territory of the Republic of Serbia. The topic was defined after a studious study of professional and scientific literature and after extensive interaction in practice with persons engaged in planning and conducted audit engagement, which was demonstrated by conducting a short survey on the social network LinkedIn during the first working week of September 2021, from 3rd to 5 September, and which consisted of one question, which was how to rate your own knowledge of social networks on a scale of 1 to 5, and which was distributed to LinkedIn accounts of 24 persons engaged in auditing in the Republic of Serbia, of which a total of 17 answers, which is 71% of the total. The questionnaire was simple, in line with its objective of collecting preliminary information to define the characteristics of more detailed research. A total of 5 respondents answered with a score of 5, which suggests that they think they have excellent knowledge of social networks. 4 respondents answered with a score of 4, which suggests that they think they have very good knowledge of social networks. 5 respondents answered with a score of 3, which suggests that they think they have good knowledge of social networks. 3 respondents answered with a score of 2, which suggests that they think they have enough knowledge about social networks. No one answered with a score of 1, which suggests that none of the respondents who answered the questionnaire considered that they had insufficient knowledge about social networks. The conclusion is that 14 out of 17 respondents believe that they have good, very good, or excellent knowledge of social networks, i.e., 82% of respondents who answered the questionnaire believe that they have relevant knowledge about social networks. This result suggests that there is a possibility that the majority of the total number of persons engaged in audit work has relevant knowledge about social networks. However, would such results be the case if the research included only persons who are licensed certified auditors? The law on audit defines the conditions required for a person to meet the certificate of certified auditor and for the ministry to issue a license to perform audit work, which indicates the need for a protocol of a certain period of time on audit work to become a licensed authorized person or auditor, and practice say that persons become licensed certified auditors only after 30 years. This would mean that the tested population would be aged 30 years and older, and these are people who were between 15 and 25 years old at the time of the creation of current social networks. Do they have relevant knowledge of social networks, and do they have a relevant knowledge base for potential planning and implementation of audit engagements on social media account audit work? The answer to this question is complex and will be obtained through several interrelated studies, and the first in a series is to examine the ability of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia to audit social media accounts by testing basic knowledge of social networks, whose basic determinants will be presented in below. Okay, it is time for research aims and research method. The aim of the research is to test the knowledge of respondents who are licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia about social networks through 4 thematic units, namely basic facts about social networks, information security on social networks, social network management and business transactions, and social media marketing. The concept of research in this context as the final list of the tested population would include the list of licensed certified auditors from the website of the Chamber of Certified Auditors of the Republic of Serbia. If the Chamber of Certified Auditors shows a willingness to cooperate, the test would be distributed to the respondents via official email addresses registered with the Chamber, and if not, the test would be distributed to respondents via LinkedIn, which would lose the potential of all licensed certified auditors in Serbia, those who don't have an account on the social network LinkedIn. So the first option takes precedence when distributing the questionnaire. The questionnaire would consist of 20 questions that are divided in 4 sections that are connected to each other. The first unit would refer to the basic facts about social networks. The second unit would refer to information security on social networks. The third unit would relate on the management of social networks, and the fourth unit would relate to business transactions and marketing on social networks. The areas that would be tested as a whole would relate to general determinants of social networks, the distinction between social media and other forms of communication, the characteristics of social media, risks entries, and the performance of social media. Areas to be tested in another unit would be account access, privacy, password management, account security, and account security strategy. Areas that would be tested by the third unit would relate to the management of real problems and challenges, development of management strategy, skills of publishing management, analytical skills, communication with stakeholders. Areas to be tested in the fourth unit would relate to objectives and values, usefulness, accountability, activity indicators, and performance. Along with the questionnaire, the respondents would be provided with instruction for filling out the questionnaire with an explanation of the purpose of conducting testing and protecting the personal data of the respondents. Estimated time to complete the questionnaire is 5 minutes. The results, i.e. the collected answers to the questions, will be evaluated in accordance with the scale from 1 to 5. Each question will have one correct answer from the 4 answers offered, and each question will be evaluated individually with 5 points. Given that the total number of questions is 20, the total number of points would be 100. Choose respondents who achieve a number of points in the range from 0 to 20 points would be evaluated with a score of 1, which would suggest that they have insufficient basic knowledge about social networks. Respondents who scored points ranging from 21 to 40 points were rated with 2, which would suggest that they have sufficient basic knowledge of social networks. Respondents who scored points ranging from 41 to 60 points were rated with 3, which would suggest that they have a good basic knowledge of social networks. Respondents who scored a number of points in the range of 61 to 80 points were rated with 4, which would suggest that they have a good basic knowledge of social networks. Respondents who scored a number of points in the range of 81 to 100 points were rated with 5, which would suggest that they have excellent basic knowledge of social networks. Respondents who would be graded 3, 4, and 5 would be characterized as respondents who have relevant basic knowledge of social networks. The questionnaire would be available for completion during the 3rd and 4th working weeks of January 2022, i.e. from January 17 to January 28. The cost of the research are minimal, the distribution of the questionnaire is free, and the data processing is done by the authors of the research. Prior of completing the questionnaire, respondents would be required to answer a question about their year of birth, a question about their gender, and a question about their activity on social media. The risks and limitations of the research may be that the respondents will not pay the necessary attention to answering the questions from the questionnaire, and therefore the collected answers will not fully reflect the real situation within the subject research topic. Considering that the questionnaire is distributed during the 3rd and 4th working week of January, which is very labor-intensive for persons engaged in audit work in the Republic of Serbia, because it represents the period of completing pre-audit work papers and completing preparations For completing audit engagements with entities and issuing audit reports, respondents may not be willing to answer the questionnaire or may not be willing to provide completely accurate answers. It is possible that licensed certified auditors who receive an invitation to complete the questionnaire but who are not inclined to social networks forward the questionnaire to younger colleagues who are not licensed certified auditors but are engaged in audit and deal with social networks. Such cases can provide an inaccurate picture of the real situation in a way that represents the real situation in a more favorable form than it really is. Such cases cannot be prevented or eliminated from the collected answers, and the assumption that will be used in the analysis of the data is that their impact of the research results is not material. Extreme cases are also possible in the collected answers, i.e. cases that will significantly deviate from the rest of the answers. These can be licensed certified auditors over the age of 60 who have excellent basic knowledge of social networks, or licensed certified auditors over the age of 40 who have insufficient basic knowledge of social networks. Such cases, if they occur, can be proceeded with special emphasis of their characteristics and answers given through case studies if such respondents show willingness to participate, provide additional answers to questions. The initial hypothesis is that more than 50% of surveyed licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia have a grade of 3 or higher, which suggests that most of the total number of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia have relevant basic knowledge of social networks. An alternative hypothesis is that less than 15% of surveyed licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia have a grade of 3 or higher, which suggests that the most of total number of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia don't have relevant basic knowledge of social networks. Okay, it's time for case finding. The case finding of the defined research could be that since more than 50% of surveyed licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia have relevant basic knowledge of social networks, it is necessary to organize relevant training in order to acquire advanced knowledge of social networks and raise the overall level knowledge of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia on social networks in order to prepare for planning and conducted audits of orders on social networks and providing consulting activities in the field of social networks. An alternative case finding of the defined research could be that since less than 50% of surveyed licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia don't have relevant basic knowledge of social networks, it is necessary to organize relevant training to acquire basic and advanced knowledge of social networks and raise levels of total knowledge of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia on social networks in order to prepare for planning and conducting audits of orders on social networks and providing consulting activities in the field of social networks. The primary data sources are respondents' responses to the distributed questionnaire. Secondary data sources are research and publication presented in the reference literature cite at the end of the paper. The basic set, i.e. the population being examined, are licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia. They are all entered in the official publicity available register of the Chamber of Certified Auditors of the Republic of Serbia. It is possible to determine the sample, but since the population isn't large, the questionnaire will be distributed to all licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia. Potential effects could be raising the awareness of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia and other stakeholders about social networks, i.e. basic facts about social networks, information security on social networks, management of social networks, and business, transaction and marketing of social networks. By conducting trainings based on this research, it is possible to raise the level of knowledge of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia on social networks, which in turn creates space for new business arrangements and improving business results based on consulting activities on social network management, social security, social transaction, and marketing on social networks, and conducting audits of others on social networks. Okay, it is time for variables. Dependent variables are knowledge of basic facts about social networks, knowledge of information security on social networks, knowledge of social network management, and knowledge of business transactions and marketing of social networks. And independent variables are age of respondents, gender, and activity of respondents on social networks. The overall results of the research would be analyzed by the method of descriptive statistics, while the method of simple linear regression could be used to analyze the impact of individual independent variables on dependent variables. Networks, the influence of the age of respondents on the knowledge of social media management, and others. Multiple regression analysis is possible, and this indicates that such research can be published in several papers. Guidelines for completing the questionnaire. The questionnaire was created in order to collect relevant data for the development of PhD research on the topic of auditing others on social networks, which will include testing the ability of persons engaged in audit worldwide to conduct audits on social networks by testing basic knowledge of social networks. The pilot research will be conducted on the territory of the Republic of Serbia in several separate units, one of which refers to examining the ability of licensed auditors in the Republic of Serbia to conduct audits of others on social networks by testing basic knowledge of social networks. The results of this research will be published in a scientific research paper in a scientific journal categorized by the Ministry of Science and Education of the Republic of Serbia or at a relevant scientific research conference. Before accessing the questionnaire itself, you will need to enter basic information about yourself that includes information about age, gender, and your personal activity on social networks, including your email address. All your personal data will be treated as confidential in accordance with the law on personal data protection of the Republic of Serbia and will be used exclusively for the purpose of analyzing research data. The estimated time to complete the questionnaire is 5 minutes. The questionnaire consists of 20 short questions. There are 4 answers to each question, of which only one answer is correct. By participating in this research, you will make a significant contribution to examining the ability of licensed certified auditors in the Republic of Serbia to conduct audits of others on social networks by testing basic knowledge of social networks, which helps scientific research in the Republic of Serbia. Okay, it's time for questionnaire. The questionnaire for the needs of defined subject research is available at the address shown on the slide that is currently shown. Okay, these are the references that we used, and that's all for today. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.